The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. My name is Rob Deininger, and I'm here with the great Jack Degraw, and we are talking Yankees baseball. How you doing, Jack?
Good. How are you tonight, Robert?
Not too bad. The Yankees continue to have the best record in baseball. They're 38-15. They won today, I guess. Is that right?
Yep, they won 3-0. Severino and Holmes combined for a one-hitter, and Judge had a homer, and Rizzo. And, I mean, Robert, they're on pace now to win like 115 games or so. It's ridiculous.
Wow. Yeah, and I mean, Toronto and Tampa have been playing well lately, but Toronto's 6.5 back and Tampa 7, and Boston, who's played a little bit better, still 12 games out. I mean, Yankees right now control the American League East, and there's no signs that they're going to let up.
No, I mean, well, they've taken care of business. I mean, they beat up on a lot of the weaker teams, and there's quite a few bad teams in the American League, and they've just, feasted on them.
Yeah, and the beginning of the year, the pitchers, the starters, they were pitching great, but they weren't racking up wins. But that seems to have changed over the last month and a half. The Yankees' ERA starter is 2.88, which leads the major leagues. And we had, Taillon and both Cole take no-hitters into the 7th and 8th inning the last couple starts for them.
Yeah, I mean, I remember we were talking a few months ago, and I think out of the first 20 wins the Yankees had, they maybe had 4 or 5, the starters had 4 or 5 wins, and now the starters have 21 wins, and they've been pitching late in the games. The guy's been throwing 90 over 100 pitches, so it's good to see. And
Jordan Montgomery finally got his first win in his last outing, but he's got an ERA of 3.04, and he's been pitching brilliantly all year, but outside of that, I mean, Taillon's 6-1, Severino's 4-1, and Cortez and Cole are 5-1, and the wins are coming for him now. And I think the highest ERA among the starters is Montgomery at 3.04, and everyone else is under 2, and Cortez is under 3, and Cortez is under 2 with a 1.50 ERA.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we got to give, the pitching coach, Matt Blake, I believe it is, and he's done an outstanding job. And I've heard some interviews with Clay Holmes, and they love the analytics. Some of these guys, Taillon, they really like the analytics. So, it's helped them, and Matt Blake has really done an outstanding job.
Yeah, I mean, Clay Holmes, when you look at his stats, I mean, he's 4-0 with an ERA of 0.34. I mean, and he's only and batters are only batting 163 off of him. And he's got a whip of 0.68. I mean, so he's not walking hitters. He's not putting runners on base. I mean, and he's got 28 strikeouts in 22 innings. And, I mean, he's just been brilliant out of the pen.
And, I haven't got much of a chance to watch him pitch because down here I don't have the package or anything. But the games I have seen when he comes in, I mean, he throws the ball in spots you can't hit it. And even if you do hit it, it's going to be ground balls. And I heard an interview with him, and he just continues, he's aggressive. He just pounds the zone, and he keeps on throwing the pitch, and he don't get discouraged or anything. Even if they get a hit off it, he'll just keep going back to what's working for him. And he's been fantastic all year.
And I know Chapman's out, and we've lost Chad Green for the year. Is there any other injuries in the bullpen that I'm not aware of?
The
Loizica.
Yeah, Loiza's injured. Chapman, it's got trouble, I believe, with his heel. And, he's got such a violent delivery. If one little thing goes wrong with him, it affects his whole delivery, and he's not like Mariano, who's real smooth and, can repeat it. And if Chapman has one thing go wrong, And then when he gets in the games, Robert, he loses confidence quick in his fastball, and that's why he throws a lot of sliders. So maybe the injury has had a lot of, why he has, some bad outings. Plus, he's getting up there in years. I think he's still a good pitcher, but I don't think he's, the elite closer he used to be.
No, and Aaron Judge in his last 4 games I had it up before, and he's got 4 home runs, I think, in his last 6 games. Yeah, Aaron Judge, he's got 4 home runs in his last 6 games, and he leads the team in batting average, home runs, and RBIs. He's got 21 homers, and I think the closest hitter to him is Rizzo with 13, followed by Stanton with 11. I mean, Judge is on pace to hit, I think, 60 or 61 home runs. I think he'll finish with around 50, but if he's playing the way he's playing, I mean, I think he's a shoo-in for MVP this season if he keeps it up.
Yeah, I mean, he's really been playing some outstanding ball, and I mean, the Yankees got a decision to make. He goes for arbitration in June. The Yankees offered 17. He wanted 21. So I think there'd be no trouble getting that. But I think if they want to keep him in New York, they're going to have to open the vaults for him because, he could go to the Angels. Imagine him, Trout, and Ohtani. Yeah, and the Angels already have one of the better offenses in baseball. Imagine if they acquired someone like Judge. My God, to go along with Trout. I mean, both Trout and Judge are all around good hitters, and Ohtani's just a different breed. Yeah, and I mean, the revenue they would bring in and stuff, and so the Yankees better, they better sign this guy because he's the face of the organization, and maybe he'll be the face of baseball. Yeah, and Judge, I noticed he's playing a lot more center field this year, and he's a really good center fielder when he's out there. I mean, did you see that play where he robbed Ohtani of a home run? Yeah, I seen that the other day. The only thing I think, you don't want him out there that much. No, not at all. Yeah, you're right. You don't want a guy like that have to cover a lot of ground, and he can do it. But I think it's too much wear and tear. I mean, he's better off in right field, and you don't mind him putting that in center for maybe 20 games or so, but you don't want him out there for 50, 60 games. Yeah, because we've talked about this for years. When Judge is going good, it seems the entire lineup is going good. And Judge has been playing great all year, and the bats have come around the last month or so. Last month or two. Yeah, I mean, even though a lot of the guys don't have the great average, they've gotten a lot of clutch hits. Yeah. What was I going to say? Donaldson's got some big hits. Rizzo's got Rizzo, Torres, and Trevino. So I mean, everybody's pretty contributed. Yeah, and Trevino in the last the last 10 games, he's batting .448 with 3 homers and 9 RBIs. So he's been having a nice stretch lately. Yeah, I mean, he's really come along. He calls a great game. Higgy calls a good game too. I mean, Higgy's just struggled offensively, but between the two of them, they have like 20 RBIs. And I mean, Sanchez last year as a starting catcher had 53. So, they're on pace to do better than that. And Gleyber Torres in the last 14 games, he's batting .260, but he's got 5 home runs and 6 RBIs, and he already has more home runs this year than he did all of last year. Yeah, he has a knack for coming up with the big hits. Yeah. And he looks a lot more comfortable at second base, and Connor Falea, who's been adequate defensively. He hasn't played great defensively, but he's played well enough, and he's hit too. So they've improved themselves defensively, and Go ahead, Robert. Sorry.
When Gregorius first joined the Yankees, didn't he struggled, just a little bit in the field, not much, but a little bit that first year, and then he settled in?
Yeah. That's not uncommon, Robert. I remember when the Yankees first got Greg Nettles. I'm going back to, to 1973. But I remember when John Sterling had the show on WMCA, the Yankee fans used to call and say, "We got to get rid of Nettles. He can't field. They should get Buddy Bell. They got this guy Nettles. He's a lousy fielder." So, it takes a while to work your way in.
Yeah, and Nettles, I think it was against the Dodgers where he made those 3 outstanding plays, and Tommy Lasorda said he basically won it with those plays. He turned out to be a hell of a third baseman defensively.
Yeah, that was the Guidry game, the 5-1 game in Game 3, and the Dodgers could have had like 5 or 6 runs, and Nettles was diving all over the place, and he was a power hitter too. He was a good hitter and clutch player.
Yeah, and news that I heard today that pissed me off was that they demoted Miguel Andujar yet again. And I've been a big fan of his, and the fact that he's done everything you can ask of him in the minor leagues. He feasts on AAA pitching, and the fact that you got Gallo who's batting 173, Hicks is batting 220, and Miguel Andujar, even though he's not lighting it up, he's still batting around 270, and his bats are a lot more productive than either one of those players. And no Stanton's coming back, but I would have preferred having Andujar at least on the bench, in case you want to spell Gallo against, left-handed pitching.
Well, I think, we've talked about it so much over the years. I just personally think the Yankees don't really think too much of Andujar as a player.
Yeah, you're right.
He hits a lot of doubles. He's a good hitter, but he's a free swinger. He don't walk a lot. His defense is adequate. His defense at third was never that bad.
Oh no, it was overblown.
Yeah, it was never that bad. But he don't go with the Yankee philosophy. You hit home runs, you walk, and you play good defense. Yeah, because he was batting 268, but his on base percentage was 279. Because, like you said, he's not going up there to work a count and try to draw a walk. He's going up there to look for a pitch to drive, whether it's to pull it, hit it back through the middle, or he scatters the ball. But he's a guy who's looking to hit, and make contact. And the sad thing is, it's like they still have him under contract for another 2 years.
Man, he's 27.
Yeah,
these are his prime years.
And, when if the Yankees don't trade him, he'll be 29 years old. He hasn't played steady since his rookie year for like 6 years. So what is he going to get?
Yeah. And when you're a contact hitter like him, you kind of have to play every day because you'll go through stretches where, you'll be raking. You'll be hitting the ball all over the place. But when you play sporadically, it's hard to get in that groove when you're a contact hitter. Yeah, and the Yankees, they want sluggers and guys who walk. And over 162 games, it's a great philosophy. They've won more games than anybody over the last 20-some years. But when you get in the playoffs, and look what happened even with the Rays last week, you don't score. You don't score. No. And when you get in the postseason and you face that top-notch pitching, you're not going to get the walks that you got during the regular season, and you're going to have to be able to move runners over with the bat and get those hits that drive in runners. You can't be waiting for that big 3-run home run. It just doesn't happen. It's not to enough to where you can win series that way. No, and that's why they struggled in the postseason. But the Yankees are never going to rebuild. They're just going to have the same format that's worked for them. And guys like Andujar and Frazier and Florial, and they're not going to come up and get a big shot with the big club because the Yankees got to win today. It was reported today when Boone told Andujar that he was being sent down, Andujar told him that he now no longer wishes to play for the Yankees and would like to be traded. And I guess this is the second time he's requested a trade. I guess he requested it sometime last year. I think it might have been at the end of the season. But now that he's demanded a trade now for the second year in a row, you know.
Well, this goes back to, like when a lot of the guys, take a guy like Judge and there's other players, they hit the free agent market, 29, 30, 31, and then they want 8-10-year contracts.
Yeah.
And they're not, you don't want to give them the long term, but the way they've gotten treated earlier in their career when they were having their prime years, they didn't make nothing. So they want to make it up at the end of the contract. So it's, I don't like the rule. I think these players are getting screwed.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And like Judge is 30 years old. He'll be 31 next year. And this is it. This will be his one chance at a big contract. That is it for him. And if the Yankees let him walk, someone will give him the money and the years he's looking for. Someone will, but I have a feeling the Yankees are just not going to budge on what they offered him.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, if they go on and they win the World Series and stuff, I mean, you got the face of the team, you got one of the big faces in baseball. I mean, not only is he great on the field, he's great off the field. I mean, he just relates to the fans, and he's a class person. I remember when he was down here with the Tampa Yankees, he was a good kid then, and he hasn't changed at all.
I mean, he talks to reporters every game after the game. He's talking to reporters. He takes the tough questions. He speaks on behalf of the team. And among all the fans, he's the unofficial captain of the Yankees. And it just, I mean, if George Steinbrenner were alive today, it wouldn't be a question. They would re-sign him. I mean, you remember Bernie Williams. They didn't want to pay Bernie what he wanted, and Boston was willing to. And Bernie called George Steinbrenner personally and told him that he wanted to be a Yankee, but Boston's offering this much money. And George told Cashman to sign him, and they did, But I just don't think the Yankees are willing to go past what they've already offered them. If that's the case, it's going to hurt. The fan base is going to be pissed. Well,
it'll be interesting to see when he goes to arbitration, which is June now, and I think they're going to meet sometime within the next 2 weeks, and we'll see what happens then.
Yeah, because I mean, if Judge finishes the season leading the Yankees in all the major categories, I mean, he very well could bat over 300, have around 50 homers and over 100 RBIs. And if he wins the MVP, I mean, it'd be very hard for the Yankees to justify not signing him, especially if we're talking about a year or two and a few extra $1 million a year.
Yeah, I mean, a player like that, I mean, they just make a lot of money on selling T-shirts with his name on it and, selling jerseys with his name on it, and the whatever they spend on a player like that, they make the money back. They make the money back and then some.
Yeah, and I think the only way the Yankees pony up is if the Mets were interested in signing him or the Red Sox were interested in signing him. I don't think the Yankees would want him playing for the Mets or Boston. I mean, especially the Mets being in New York, because they would have to deal with questions every day about, did you make a mistake? Did you make a mistake? But there's going to be a few teams that will be willing to pay Judge whatever he wants.
Yeah, well, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens, and we all hope he stays a Yankee. But if he doesn't, he gets offered more money. Then he's got to do what's right for him, and and his family.
And you're right; he's a California kid, so I mean, something like the Angels or the Dodgers, that's a major possibility too.
Yeah.
And with Chapman and Britton coming off the books at the end of the year, that opens up $30 million next year. I mean, it's not like the Yankees don't have the money to pay him going forward.
Well, like you keep saying, it'll be very interesting to see what happens. And I think if you let a guy like that go, just the public relations the fans will be upset, to say the least. The fan base will be very pissed off.
Yeah, and Gallo, thank God, this is his last year on the contract. But I mean, if the Yankees are serious about making a run for the World Series, I don't know how you can have a guy playing left field who's batting under 200. I mean, that's an area of concern. And then with Hicks in center, I know their pitching's been, so dominant that the ones they do score is enough. But you'd like to plug some holes that you can going forward.
Well, I think, you have you've got a lot of bad teams in baseball.
Yeah,
most of the teams have losing records, and there's probably like almost 40% of the teams are out of out of playoff contention, and you haven't even played a third of the season.
Yeah.
So I think the thing, a guy like Gallo, I think when the trading deadline comes along, they just might they'll pick somebody up, and they just might designate it for assignment. I think with Hicks, he's still got 3 years on his contract.
Yeah.
And, coming off a wrist injury, he hasn't played a lot of baseball in the last couple of years. So I could see Gallo going, but I think Hicks, because, Cashman signed him.
Yeah.
He called
Hicks a future superstar.
Yeah, well, I can see Hicks, at least finishing the year, but I think Gallo will be released at some point if he don't step it up a lot. I mean, I like to see the guy do well. He seems like a good guy, but you can't be hitting 170, and you get in the playoffs, and it's just not good.
And they asked him one time, I think it was several weeks ago, they asked him, why can't you make adjustments to try to make contact? And he literally said, I'm not one of those guys. I'm not an Anthony Rizzo where I can work on my swing to help you make contact. I mean, that's a Major League Baseball player saying, I don't have the ability to make adjustments to make contact. I mean, so that right there tells you he's not a good hitter by any means. I mean, I can't believe he actually said that.
Yeah, I didn't hear that. I mean, that's something, that sets up a red flag there. I mean, at least you can try to make adjustments. I think these guys are stubborn. They hit 25 home runs a year for 5 or 6 years in a row, and they're not going to change their philosophy. But it's a different thing when you're playing for the Texas Rangers and you're playing for the New York Yankees. It's just a different thing.
Oh, yeah, it's a different beast. And the Yankees, I know they're playing Detroit. Have you caught a look at Cody Clemens, Roger Clemens' son? I think he's a third baseman for Detroit.
No, I haven't seen him with the Tigers. I remember I seen him down here. I think he played for the Blue Jays in the minor leagues. I remember seeing him play down here.
Okay, maybe with the Blue. I know that I saw on Major League Baseball they had something flashed across the bottom of the screen saying Cody Clemens is making his Major League debut. I forgot. I thought he was with the Tigers, but he could be with the Blue Jays.
No, you're right, Robert. He is with the Tigers, but when I seen him, he was with the Dunedin Blue Jays.
Okay. And we got one more game with Detroit, which is tomorrow. We got Montgomery on the mound. Then we start a 3-game series with Minnesota, and we have Cortez, Taillon, and Cole. And then a 3-game series with the Chicago Cubs, with Severino starting the first game, followed by Montgomery and Cortez. And then we got 3 with Tampa, and then 3 with Toronto, and then 3 more with Tampa, then 4 with Houston. So after the next 2 series, we start seeing teams in the Yankees division, especially 6 with Tampa.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Like Nestor Cortez, he might start the All-Star game.
Right? I mean, he's got a 1.50 ERA. I mean, it's like he came out of nowhere last year, and he hasn't slowed down since. Yeah,
I mean, it's a great story. For a couple of years, I mean, the Yankees had him, and it's like a lot of people figured, well, why do they got this guy just to eat up innings and stuff? He don't throw very hard, but I mean, he is just fantastic. He's fun to watch. His velocity went from like 89, 90. He hits 92, 93 now.
Yeah.
He's got all these crazy deliveries. He looks a little like Luis Severino and El Duque. He's just he's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, he changes his arm angles. He's got like a stutter step to home plate. You know, he's got a lot of different ways to confuse and frustrate batters. And I mean, he's just like an old time pitcher. So then maybe you get, maybe these guys who don't throw 98, 100 miles an hour, they'll, teams will start giving them second looks. Yeah, I mean, look at Tom Glavine for the Braves back in the day. He didn't throw hard, but he could paint the corners and move the ball up and down in the zone, and he could pitch, and Greg Maddux and Mike Messina, all those guys didn't throw hard, but they could pitch. They knew how to work the corners.
Yeah, I remember the Cubs had a guy in Seattle. Remember Jamie Moyer?
Oh, yeah, the lefty.
Yeah, he pitched till he was in his mid-40s, I think, and he won over 200 games, and he was fun to watch too. He was a classic pitcher. So
and Jim Key with the Yankees. I remember, he was a guy when the Yankees started to turn things around in the early mid-90s. He was a big part of it, and he was another one, a left-handed pitcher who could, work the strike zone.
Yep. Yeah. So, you don't see those guys a lot, but when you do, it's fun to see.
Yeah, and guy I mentioned before, the Yankees, they got the 6.5 game lead over Toronto and 7 over Tampa. And the Yankees at home this year are 22-7, and they're getting better on the road. They're 16-8 on the road now, and they got a run differential of 101, plus 101. So they've scored over more, scored 100 runs more than they've given up.
Yeah, I mean, everything's clicking on all cylinders now, and I mean, it's they're just they're playing some outstanding baseball. And if you look, like last year, they were 50-30.
Yeah.
And since then, they're like something like 88-45. I mean, they've been playing outstanding baseball for a long time.
Yeah, and they're 8-2 in their last 10 games, and the only team that's as hot as them in their division is Toronto, who's 9-1 in their last 10.
Well, we know the Jays are going to be trouble.
Yeah. Right now, I think the Yankees and Houston are the two best teams in the American League. Houston's 34-18, and the Yankees are 38-15. So right now, it looks like those two are the two best teams in the American League.
Yeah, Toronto's gaining ground, and Tampa's always tough. But the Red Sox are coming on. They were 10-19, and now I think they're a game under 500. But
they're 26-27. Yeah.
They might, and there might be 4 teams in the playoffs just from the Yankee division. Yeah.
And, it's great up here because both the Yankees and Mets are the Mets have the best record in the National League and the Yankees have the best record in the Major Leagues. It's been a while since both New York teams have been the best in baseball.
Yeah, I know the Mets, like their 2 big starters, have been injured. And they've, they've kept pace. So it's an exciting summer in New York.
Yeah, and I'd like to see it keep going. I mean, it'd be something if both those teams could make the World Series. But the Mets, I think, dropped 2 in a row to the Dodgers. I don't know if they've played yet today, but Lindor's hurt. Like you said, DeGrom and Scherzer haven't pitched. But they're still winning.
Yeah, I think they had a 10-game lead over the other day. And did you see Robert Joe Girardi?
Got fired. Yeah. I mean, I don't know why they would fire him this year. I mean, maybe at the end of the year, but Philadelphia has 28th. Bullpen is ranked 28th in the major leagues, which is than I thought it was, but it's still bad. And their starting rotation isn't good. I don't care how good your lineup is. If you're giving up more runs than you can score, it's hard to. I think he was a scapegoat.
Yeah, I mean, they signed Bryce Harper and they signed a lot of other veterans.
Yeah, I mean, and Bryce Harper was playing hurt this year until finally he had to have, I don't know, injections or something, but he's been out lately.
Yeah, I mean, they expected some big things out of the Phillies, and it just shows you can get all the players in the world. I mean, in baseball, you could have the 26 best players in Major League Baseball, and you're still not guaranteed you're going to win.
No, and I think they played. Record was better than it should have been last year because some of their starters pitched better than they were expected. But this year they came back down to earth. And their bullpen, they don't have a bullpen, Philly. And I just think I don't know if maybe there's something behind the scenes where he's notoriously, known for not getting along with management. But I'm curious to why he was fired, if it was because of the play on the field. Can't really put the blame on him.
I think Girardi's like an old-time baseball guy.
Yeah.
And, he's excellent. I mean, he knows the game inside and out. I remember when he used to, be a broadcaster for the Yankees, and when he would talk about catching and in-game situation, he was, just a wonderful listener. I mean, he'd be a great analyst.
Yeah.
But I just hope another team will give him a shot.
Yeah. Look at Buck in New York. Buck, he has, a full autonomy to do what he wants as far as the lineup and stuff like that. But he incorporates analytics, but he incorporates it with what he also feels is the best thing to do. And I think Girardi's similar to what Buck does. The difference is the Mets have a lot better team than Philly.
Yeah, I think, the Mets have struggled for so long, and they've spent a lot of money, and they figured the philosophy they've had with managers hasn't worked. Bringing in Buck Showalter and just let him run the team.
Yeah.
And he helped. He did a great job turning around the Yankees and the Orioles, and I think he was with
Diamondback. Yeah.
And he knows how to build a team.
Oh, definitely. And I just feel bad for Girardi because, I mean, he was, I think, manager of the year with the Marlins. I think he was also manager of the year of the Cubs at one point. I mean, he knows how to coach. I mean, I don't think he gets along with his players as well as Buck does with the Mets, but, I mean, I just hope someone's smart enough to give him another shot.
Yeah, I know when he was with the Marlins, he got in an argument with management.
Yeah, he got fired after that first year, but he still won Manager of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, the Marlins don't want to spend money. That's one of the reasons Jeter left after 5 years. It's just
it's frustrating.
Yeah, and if you're used to winning, and you get a philosophy, well, teams don't want to win. They just want to maybe we won't lose 100 games, and guys who have been successful their whole career, they don't want to put up with that.
Oh, no, that will drive them insane. Yeah. But come back to the Yankees. I mean, the pitching has just been brilliant, and the concern I had with Severino to start the year was he hold up, and so far he looks like he's rejuvenated and finally healthy, and he's been just lights out. But do you think at some point they're going to have to watch his innings, especially in the second half of the season?
Yeah, I mean, his pitch count is up, and, he hasn't pitched for a couple years. And it'd be a concern. I mean, I don't know how many innings he can pitch. And even with the bullpen, early in the year we were talking, Robert, how a lot of these guys were pitching all the time, and you don't know if they can hold up. And I think now they're letting these guys go deeper into the game. So,
yeah. Because I think he's got Severino's got 55 innings pitched in 10 games, which I don't think is too bad. But I think at some point you're going to have to at least monitor him to see how he's doing. if he's getting tired or if he starts struggling.
Yeah, and I mean, the good thing is they've won so many games and they got a nice cushion.
Yeah.
And, I mean, with the playoffs, if you got you win your division, you get the first round off.
Yeah.
But if you're not one of the top two teams and, you're anywhere for 3 to 6, you got to play. You got to play the opening round. So there's so many bad teams. The Yankees are one of the best teams in baseball. So they're going to be in the playoffs. Yeah.
And both Cortez and Cole have 60 innings or more. Cortez has pitched 60 innings. Cole's pitched 64.2 in 11 games. But it's just their starting pitching has just been brilliant so far. A lot better than I thought it would be.
And the thing is, like, if you're able to see a lot of the games, which I'm not able to see a lot of the games, it's not only the innings you pitch and how many pitches you throw. It's like the situations you're in.
Yeah. Yep.
If there's men on base and it's a close game, they're all, every pitch means a lot. But if you got a 4 or 5 run lead, I'm not saying you let up, but you don't have as much, pressure on you.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm looking at batters are only batting 178 versus Nestor Cortez. Batters only batting 196 against Gerrit Cole, 204 versus Severino, 220 off of Taillon, and 227 off of Montgomery. So I mean, their whole starting rotation has been very tough on opposing hitters. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, and we mentioned they played a lot of the weaker teams, and they've just beat up on them.
Yeah.
So now when you get the tougher teams and you just can stay a few games over 500, you'll win 98, 100 games. The Yankees can win that many games.
And Rizzo, he's got 13 homers and 35 RBIs, but his batting average has dipped down to 214. I mean, I like what he's doing, but I'd like to see Rizzo start hitting the ball a little bit better. But otherwise, getting you the home runs, he plays great defense. So I can't really complain. But I would like to see his batting average raise a little bit, along with LeMahieu. LeMahieu's down to 257.
Yeah, I mean, they've gotten a lot of big hits, but you would like to see the average get up. I mean, Rizzo had the big pinch hit single the other night.
Yeah, won the game for him.
Yeah, and LeMahieu's had a bad stretch there for a while, and he's starting to pick up a little. But with the pitching being so good, they don't have to score a lot of runs. But eventually, you want to see LeMahieu up about 290, and you want to get Rizzo up there to 260, 270.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the schedule when excluding the Twins and Cubs, like I said, you got 6 with Tampa, 3 with Toronto, 4 with Houston, and then 3 with Oakland, 1 more with Houston. So they have a stretch coming up in a few weeks, which they'll start playing some better teams. And July 7th is when they start their first series against Boston, or the second series since opening day. They've got 4 games with Boston starting July 7th, and again on July 15th. So I think you'll start seeing tougher competition and, going into the second half of the season.
Yeah, the schedule's really favored them, and they've taken, they've taken care of business. They've done what they had to do. So, the tough part of the season will be like the last 60, 70 games.
And I guess the trading deadline is pushed back this year to August 3rd or something like that.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, you check out. We'll have to check out some of the bad teams and guys who are out of teams that are out of the pennant race. And they're going to start unloading players. Who's going to be a free agent this off season? Teams will be able to pick up guys just for players for the stretch run. So that's another thing that we keep our eye on.
Yeah, because I was thinking, what could the Yankees, be looking to acquire? I mean, I know people are talking about they could use another catcher. But if Trevino, but Trevino, he doesn't really have that strong of an arm behind the plate, does he?
I don't believe so. I mean, he's excellent. Him and he are excellent. Like, they call a game and they frame pitches. Yeah. And I know they were talking about Contreras from the Cubs, but they said his defense, he don't frame pitches as well as the guys the Yankees have. He can hit, but he'll just basically be a rental for 2 months. And I mean, if you can, you can get some guys with just some middle prospects, you do it. But I don't know if the Yankees are going to, get rid of guys like Volpe and Dominguez, those guys. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen. I totally slipped my mind. We should have Domingo Germán back in the second half at some point, right? Robert, I mentioned it last. I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, either have I. Yeah.
And even when I hear the updates of the Yankee telecast, or I watch Michael Kay on YouTube, I don't hear nothing about Germán.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, all I heard before the season started was during the lockout he was playing catch or something and he hurt his shoulder, and that was it. And they mentioned he should be back after the All-Star break, but other than that, I haven't heard anything since before the season started. No,
at least you hear he's down here in Tampa working out. Haven't even heard that.
And did you see the Padres released sent Cano to the minors, and he decided to decline and become a free agent? So,
yeah, I mean, Cano was terrific.
Yeah.
And he was a great player. I mean, he had a chance, if he stayed with the Yankees, he could have faced the franchise. He went out to Seattle. And, on the East Coast, you don't hear about the Mariners.
No.
It's like out of thought, out of sight, out of mind. I mean, if he'd have stayed with the Yankees, he probably would have had his almost 3,000 hits now. And, and I think with, he had some veterans on the team. You get a guy like Beltran with, he might not have taken the PEDs or whatever he had. So he's pretty much, ruined what a chance he had for the Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah.
With, he missed all last year, suspended. And who's going to pick up a guy with a big contract?
Yeah. Who's not hitting anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't sit out big league baseball when you get in your mid to late 30s and then just come back and hit. So
yeah,
I don't know. He might be done. Mexican League.
And the thing that I heard was he was incredible in the clubhouse with the Mets. The players looked up to him. He was great giving advice. And same with in San Diego, he very well liked in the clubhouse, but he couldn't hit. It just makes me think with the Yankees, you got a guy like Gallo who can't hit. He's not someone who can help other hitters improve. It's like, how long do the Yankees stick with them? I mean, it's not like they got stuck having to pay him. I mean, Texas basically gave him away. I mean, how long do you keep putting him out there when he can't hit? It just makes me wonder if the Yankees might look to make a move for another left fielder the second half of the season.
I think they're going to have to if this continues, because everything has pretty much been overlooked because they've been playing so well.
Yeah. Because the bottom of their lineup, I mean, when you got like Hicks and Gallo at the bottom of your lineup who are outs, I mean, and that's why, Andujar being demoted burns me so bad, because, he might not walk, but he's a guy that he's aggressive at the plate, and his at-bats, even if he flies out or grounds out, are more productive than Gallo or Hicks.
Well, a lot of it's been overlooked because, they're 38 and 15. I mean, if they were 30 and 26,
Yeah.
It'd be a whole different story. I just think, the Yankees are looking. The Yankees are looking, and, they come up with, they got this guy Chapman who's played well. He's got 3 or 4 homers, and he looks like Super Mario. And which I like Super Mario. So So I'm sure, they're looking. They're looking.
I'll give you an example. Like the Yankees, I forget what game it was. It was like a week or two ago. Andujar was up at bat. The Yankees were down 1-0. They had runners on second and third. Andujar put the ball in play. He hit a liner to short, and he hustled out of the box. And the shortstop rushed his throw. Andujar was safe. There's an error at first base, and both runners scored, and the Yankees took a 2-1 lead. Whereas if Gallo was at the plate, he more than likely would have struck out instead of putting that ball in play and making something out of nothing.
Yeah, I mean, he just it's like the only time he hits the ball when it's in his swing range. He don't adjust his swing or anything, and it's just I don't know how much longer it can go on. But I think eventually, maybe sooner than later, you'll see. I'm sure they're working out something. They're looking at other teams, say like the Reds or the Tigers, or just the A's who are struggling, is pretty much out of the playoff contention now. They'll pick somebody up.
Yeah, and I mean, I still can't believe it was the post game show, and one of the reporters was talking to Gallo, and they asked him about working on his swing and stuff like that, and he says, "I'm not one of those players. I can't make adjustments to increase my contact or even try to drive the ball the other way. I'm not an Anthony Rizzo." I mean, when a major league hitter says he can't do anything to help himself make contact, I mean, that's, like you said, that's a red flag, a major red flag.
Yeah, well, I mean, being in the big leagues, you always have to make adjustments. Pitchers have to make adjustments. Hitters have to make adjustments. Fielders and stuff. You just constantly have to do something different, because if what you're doing isn't working, it'll tell you. If you're not hitting the ball, you better do something different, because you're going to continue not to hit the ball.
Yeah. And going back to, I looked at the last 7 games. I'm looking at the last 15. Aaron Judge is batting .340 with 7 homers and 12 RBIs in his last 15 games. Torres is batting .260 with 5 home runs. I mean, they got some guys that are starting to pick things up a little bit, especially Aaron Judge. He's just been consistent all year. Yeah. And I mean, Judge and Stanton carried them last year to get them into the wild card game. So, he's been able to stay healthy, and we see what kind of ball player he is. And the one thing I love about Stanton is when they have gotten to the postseason, he's been a monster in the postseason for the Yankees. Yeah, he's really he plays a lot better when he's in the outfield once in a while. Yeah. And he's a good outfielder. Really good outfielder.
Got a good arm.
And if LeMahieu starts getting hot and Rizzo starts hitting better, I mean, Torres seems to be playing better. I mean, season second half, going into the second half, the Yankees could have a bigger lead than they do now.
Well, we'll see how it plays out. If the guys play at the back of their baseball cards, the old saying goes, I mean, the Yankees could win 108, 110 games, and then you get in the playoffs and you flip a coin. So
and today's what, Saturday?
Yep.
So when we talk next week, they'll be playing the Cubs, and then, like I said, the week after that is when Tampa and Toronto come to town. So we'll have a lot to talk about in the next couple of weeks. You know, I mean, especially if they could beat up on Tampa in those 6 games and Toronto in those 3 games there, they could increase that lead. If they can go into the All-Star break with a 10-game lead or more, they'll be in perfect shape.
Well, we'll have to see how it all plays out. It'll be exciting because the Rays, the Rays are always good and the Jays are coming on. So, they're the 2 big rivals this year, and don't count out the Red Sox yet. They'll be hanging around. Yeah,
but I would love to see Aaron Judge, bat over 300, hit 50 home runs, and drive in over 120 runs. It'll be interesting to see what happens if he does win MVP this year, if the Yankees decide to change their stance on what to pay him and what not to pay him. I would love to see him stay in New York. I mean, he is the face of the Yankees and should be the next captain if he stays.
Yeah, I don't think they'll let him go. I think he wants to stay with the Yankees, but if the Dodgers or the Angels, overwhelm him and the Yankees don't budge, he might not be in pinstripes next year. So we'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, but everything's good in Yankee land so far, and like I said, up here in the tri-state, the Yankees and Mets, the fans have a lot to celebrate. The Rangers are up 2-0 on the Lightning, and if they win 2 more, they'll go to the Stanley Cup Finals. So New York fans have to celebrate.
Yeah. Let's go Rangers. I mean, I've always been a Rangers fan. And hopefully the Giants and the Jets, well, that's,
Yeah, hopefully things rub off on them, with the good vibes that the Yankees and Mets and Rangers have. Maybe it'll inspire the Jets and Giants to at least try harder this year.
Yeah, it'd be great if they could turn football around and even the Knicks, it's been bad for a long time.
Yeah. And I should be free next Saturday. I think I have off, so we'll try to get a show in for the fans next week.
Yep, sounds good, Robert. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And, when the Yankees doing great, it's a lot of fun.
Oh, it definitely is. So next week, Jack?
Sounds good, Robert. Look forward to it.
Okay, to all you listeners out there, we'll see you next week.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.